Welcome to an episode of Note Lab Mode.
Hey there.
Today, we are taking a deep dive into some really compelling research. It's all about the rapidly evolving world of e-commerce in 2025.
Right. And specifically, our focus is on how smart brands are building these thriving communities.
Yeah, not just around the products they sell, but actually around you, their customers.
And this research, it makes it pretty clear building a community isn't just, a nice strategy anymore. It's becoming a strategic necessity.
A necessity, yeah. Especially in today's, well, incredibly noisy and competitive digital market.
Exactly.
So we're going to unpack the key trends shaping e-commerce right now, dig into what makes a community really successful, according to this research anyway.
And look at some examples too, right? Brands that are already kind of leading the pack.
Definitely. Our mission here is really to distill this research for you, pull out the most important insights.
And explore what it all means, for the future of online business and maybe even how you interact with the brands you love online.
Okay, but before we really jump into the details.
Yes, we want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor.
Absolutely. Our sponsor today is cloutfit.ai.
That's CLOUTFIT.ai.
CLOUTFIT.ai.
And CloudFit.ai has this really interesting solution. Basically, it connects influencer outfits directly to a brand's product inventory.
Okay, so that makes their content instantly shoppable.
Exactly. Which is, well, pretty powerful. It turns that moment of inspiration, when you see an influencer's look.
Yeah, you think, I want that.
Right. It turns that directly into an immediate purchase opportunity, so it helps drive more sales and usually a higher order value for the brands, too.
Turning inspiration right into action. That's pretty neat.
It is.
So you can go check them out, see how it works at cloutfit.ai.
Definitely worth a look.
All right, let's jump into it. Why is community suddenly so, well, non-negotiable in 2025? The research lays out a pretty stark challenge right from the start.
It really does. The e-commerce landscape, it's just intensely competitive. And getting new customers, the cost has become incredibly expensive.
Skyrocketing, the research says.
Yeah, exactly. The data shows that in 2025, brands are projected to lose, get this, $29 for every new customer they acquire.
Wait, hold on. They're losing money. $29 per person.
Per new acquisition.
That's, wow.
Yeah.
Compared to just, what, $9 back in 2013?
Big jump.
That number is just shocking. It sounds completely unsustainable if you're trying to grow.
Well, it kind of flips the traditional growth model on its head, doesn't it?
It really does.
And that's precisely why customer retention becomes, well, not just important, but absolutely essential for profitability.
Ah, okay. So it's about keeping who you have.
Exactly. The research highlights that even a small, 5% increase in customer retention can boost profits anywhere from 25% up to a remarkable 95%.
Yeah, okay. So finding new people is bleeding cash, but keeping the ones you already have is incredibly profitable.
That's the picture.
Okay, so this brings us straight back to community. When the research talked about community, what does that actually look like here? It's clearly not just, another marketing channel.
No, it's much deeper than that. It's really about moving beyond purely transactional relationships.
Right.
The research defines it as building authentic connections. So yes, brand-customer connections, but crucially, also fostering relationships among customers themselves.
Customer to customer. Okay.
Yeah, it's about creating that sense of belonging, maybe a shared identity or interest around the brand's products or their values or even their bigger mission.
Right, creating a tribe almost.
Right.
So if this kind of deep connection is the answer to that crazy high cost of getting new customers,
yeah,
what are the results? Like the tangible benefits? The research must quantify this, right?
Oh, it does. And the numbers are pretty compelling. For instance, that emotional connection we just talked about.
Yeah.
The research suggests it leads to a massive 306% higher customer lifetime value, CLV.
Whoa, 306% higher. Just from feeling connected. That's an incredible return on, well, building relationships.
It truly is. And this connection, it fuels organic growth, too. Community members, they naturally become these really powerful brand advocates.
Like word of mouth on steroids.
Kind of, yeah. The research found that a remarkable 81.5% of community members actually identify as advocates for the brand.
80%, that's huge.
And 73% are significantly more likely to recommend that brand to other people.
So your most loyal customers basically become your marketing team, sharing positive experiences, helping push back against those sky-high acquisition costs.
Precisely. And the benefits aren't just external, pointing outwards.
Okay.
Communities provide this invaluable internal feedback loop. Brands get direct, often really unfiltered, insights from the people actually using that product.
Which is gold, right, for improving products, for innovation.
Absolutely bold. Getting those genuine thoughts from your most engaged users helps you make better stuff. Simple as that.
Makes total sense.
Right. And this increased engagement within the community, it also translates directly into buying more often.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, customers who are involved in an online brand community are shown to be 73.6% more likely to purchase from that brand more frequently.
So they stay longer, they buy more often, they tell their friends who then might join.
No.
It sounds like this really positive cycle.
It creates exactly that, a virtuous cycle, and it builds resilience, too.
Resilience. How so?
A deeply connected community tends to support the brand, you know? They
Mhm.
show loyalty and understanding, even when things get tough.
Right, through challenges or maybe a PR hiccup or something?
Potentially, yeah. Ultimately, this whole strategic focus on community, it's presented as a sustainable, more cost-effective alternative to just constantly chasing those expensive new customer acquisition channels.
Okay, this really seems to tie into the bigger shifts happening in e-commerce as we look towards 2025.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the other key trends the research highlights, beyond just the community aspect itself?
Well, first off, overall global e-commerce sales are still projected to grow, hitting around $6.56 trillion in 2025.
It's a massive number.
It is, but the growth story, it's complex. It's marked by these really critical shifts in how things work.
Like hyper-personalization. I feel like we've been hearing about this for years, but the research says it's now basically an expectation.
It absolutely is. Consumers don't see highly tailored experiences as a nice little bonus anymore. They expect it.
Right.
And this means really using AI and machine learning to personalize across every interaction point, not just sending a segmented email, you know?
Much broader than that.
Yeah, it's about making each individual customer feel genuinely seen and valued.
In social media.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's evolving way beyond just a place for, vacation photos and cat videos, isn't it?
Hmm.
The research really seems to emphasize the rise of social commerce.
Definitely. Social platforms are becoming direct, integrated sales channels at a really rapid pace. The research projects this slice of commerce to hit $2 trillion globally very soon.
2 trillion, just through social.
It's through social. And when you think that 82% of consumers already use social media for discovering new products,
Wow, yeah.
it just highlights the massive opportunity to connect with them and sell to them right where they already are.
So brands absolutely need to be present and shoppable on social, because that's increasingly where people are finding stuff to buy.
Exactly.
What about the role of AI and machine learning beyond just that personalization piece?
Oh, they're becoming indispensable, pretty much across the board in e-commerce.
Yeah.
The research points to them automating routine tasks like moderation within communities.
Filtering spam and stuff?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Powering chatbots that can handle apparently over 80% of basic customer questions, enhancing product recommendations, optimizing all sorts of behind-the-scenes operations too.
Which ideally then frees up the human staff
Right.
for those more complex, maybe more empathetic interactions that AI, well, isn't really good at yet.
Exactly. That balance is just crucial. The research also notes that technologies like AR, augmented reality, and VR, virtual reality, they're really starting to move into the mainstream for e-commerce.
Especially for things like virtual try-ons, I bet.
That's the prime example. Trying on makeup virtually or seeing how furniture looks in your room using your phone's camera.
Right, like that.
It really helps reduce that purchase uncertainty, especially for things where fit or look is critical. And frankly, it just makes the shopping experience more engaging, almost like bringing a piece of the physical store into your home.
Yeah, more interactive. Any other major trends popping out from the research?
Well, conscious commerce is a big one. It's basically no longer optional. The research indicates that sustainability practices and aligning with customer values are pretty much necessities in 2025.
So people are voting with their wallets based on what a brand stands for.
Increasingly, yes. And then there's the seamless omni-channel experience, bridging that gap between online and offline shopping.
Still super important.
Absolutely crucial. Customers just expect to move fluidly between channels now. The research highlights that 60% of consumers really value a seamless service interaction.
Things like checking online if a store has something in stock before you go.
Exactly. Or buying online and picking up in-store, that BOPIS model.
Right.
Or making it easy to return online purchases at a physical store.
Right.
That unified experience across all the touch points, it builds significant loyalty.
All of this seems to really underscore that fundamental shift you mentioned earlier, moving away from just trying to grab attention
Yeah.
to needing to build deep, lasting engagement.
That's honestly the core thread running through all these trends. The
Yeah.
digital world is just so saturated. Acquisition is so costly. Shouting loudest just isn't a viable strategy anymore.
Right.
The focus has to shift. It has to be about fostering deep engagement and loyalty. And the research really positions community building as a primary driver for making that shift happen.
It's almost like e-commerce businesses need to start thinking less like just retailers and more like, I don't know, engaging destinations. Almost like media companies, in a way.
The research makes that exact point.
Mm.
Content is becoming integrated directly into the sales process now.
How so?
Well, think about shoppable social posts or live shopping streams on platforms. Brands aren't just selling products anymore. They need to create compelling content that naturally leads people to discover things and want to buy them.
And the community interaction is woven throughout that whole experience.
Ideally, yes. It's part of the fabric.
Okay, so the why is crystal clear. It's about survival and profitability in this world of really high customer acquisition costs. And we've seen the big trends supporting this shift. Let's get into the how. What are the essential building blocks of a truly thriving community, according to this research?
Okay, first off, that hyper-personalization we talked about, it's absolutely foundational.
Right, using AI.
Using AI, exactly, to deeply understand individual user data browsing habits, purchase history, social interactions, maybe even preferences they explicitly state.
All that data.
Yeah. And the AI then uses that to tailor the content, the offers, maybe even the specific community interactions to make each member feel genuinely seen and valued, not just another number.
So the AI makes the community feel personal specifically to you.
That's the goal. And related to that is smarter AI integration for actually managing the community itself.
Automating the routine stuff.
Exactly. Filtering out spam, handling basic member questions with chatbots.
Which again frees up the humans for the more meaningful stuff.
Precisely. AI can also potentially help with things like predictive analytics.
Like figuring out who might be about to leave.
Yeah, identifying members who might be becoming less active, so maybe a human community manager can reach out proactively, or doing sentiment analysis to kind of gauge the overall mood of the community.
Interesting.
But the key, the research stresses, is that AI handles the scale and the efficiency,
Right.
which enables the humans to focus on that crucial personal touch, which leads right into the next point, humanizing the brand.
Authenticity. That seemed really vital in the research findings.
Paramount. Brands need to show up authentically in their community spaces.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, it means things like sharing behind-the-scenes moments, using a more conversational and relatable tone.
Not corporate speak.
Definitely not. Being transparent, even about challenges the brand might be facing. And crucially, allowing their actual team members, real people, to interact directly with the community members.
So it doesn't feel like you're just talking to a logo.
Exactly. It makes the community feel more like an extension of the brand's own team, and that builds really deep, genuine loyalty.
And instead of trying to build just one massive generic community, the research suggests focusing down on specific niches.
Yes, absolutely. Identifying those sub-interests or specific passions within your broader audience and creating dedicated spaces or groups just for them.
Okay.
And leveraging micro-influencers who really resonate deeply within those specific niche areas can be super powerful. Focusing on these micro-niches tends to attract highly engaged audiences.
And that high engagement then ripples outwards.
Creates that ripple effect, yeah. Organic growth, more advocacy. It's very effective.
And underlying all of this, especially when you're collecting data for all that personalization, you have data security and trust. That has to be huge.
Foundational, absolutely foundational. In today's environment, with regulations like GDPR in Europe or CCPA in California.
Laws protecting personal data.
Exactly. Trust is the absolute currency. Brands have to ensure their community platforms are secure, that their data policies are crystal clear and transparent.
Easy to understand.
Yeah, and they should really minimize data collection to only what's truly essential for providing value back to the member.
Makes sense. Don't just hoover up data for no reason.
Right. And the research pointed out a really key stat here. 93.4% of consumers are actually comfortable sharing their data if they understand how it's going to be used and if they trust the brand.
93%. That's almost everyone, provided you build that trust.
Exactly. And this is where zero-party data becomes so valuable.
Zero-party data. What's that?
That's the information that customers intentionally and proactively share with you, like preferences they set in their profile or answers to quizzes, that kind of thing.
Data they choose to give you, not just data you track.
Precisely. build trust through transparency and security, and users are much more likely to willingly provide the data you need for great personalization.
It's a two-way street then.
It really is. And this leads directly to a central challenge the research highlights: finding that right balance between automation and the personal touch.
Okay, the AI versus human thing again.
Exactly. AI is fantastic for efficiency, for handling routine stuff at scale, but right now, anyway, it lacks genuine empathy. It can't really understand nuance the way a person can.
So if you over-automate,
You risk making the community feel cold, impersonal, disconnected. And that can actually lead to losing loyalty, the opposite of what you want.
right, undermining the whole point.
Precisely. So the research advocates for what it calls an ethical AI framework.
Okay, what does that framework involve specifically?
Well, it's about a few key things. Being transparent with users about when and how AI is being used.
Letting people know if they're talking to a bot.
For example, ensuring there's always a clear path to a human fallback if a user needs to escalate an issue or just prefers to talk to a person.
Got it. An escape hatch.
Kind of. And also actively monitoring the AI systems for any biases that could potentially unfairly impact different community members.
That's important.
Very. It's all about ensuring the AI supports the human connection rather than replacing it. Especially given that paradox we talked about, needing user trust to get data for personalization, getting that balance right is critical.
It sounds like getting that balance right is maybe the key to not accidentally undermining the very connection you're trying so hard to build.
I think that's a fair assessment. It is crucial for where things are heading in 2025.
Okay, so we know the components. Where are these communities actually living? Like, what channels and platforms did the research identify as most important for hosting these communities?
Well, social commerce is definitely positioned as, quote, the new storefront.
Right, that $2 trillion number.
Exactly. Platforms like TikTok Shop, Instagram Shopping, Facebook Shops, Pinterest, even Snapchat with its AR try-ons, and YouTube doing live shopping, they're becoming really central.
And it's the interactive stuff driving it.
Yeah, live shopping events, interactive video content, those are huge drivers of this growth. And those AR/VR tools we mentioned, they help make shopping on these platforms more engaging, more social, while also reducing uncertainty with things like virtual try-ons.
So social media isn't just for discovery anymore. It's where the buying and the community interaction are happening all tangled together.
Very much so. However, and this is important, the research also strongly emphasizes the value of owned platforms.
Meaning building your own digital home base, like your website or app.
Precisely. Your own website, dedicated brand apps, or maybe using specialized community platform software. The research mentioned names like Develo, but also common places like Reddit, Discord, or tools like Mighty Networks or Circle.
And the advantage there is control.
Control is a big part of it. Brands get significantly more control over the user experience, over the data they collect, and it really allows for building those deeper, more focused niche communities we talked about.
Plus, you're not totally reliant on, say, Facebook changing its algorithm overnight and messing up your whole strategy.
Exactly. It mitigates those risks associated with relying solely on third-party social platforms where the rules can change without warning.
So it sounds like the research suggests kind of a hub-and-spoke model, where your own platform is the central hub for the deep engagement.
That's the exact analogy the research uses, yeah. Owned platforms serve as the core hub for that really meaningful interaction and connection.
And social media.
Social platforms act as the broad reach spokes. They drive discovery, initial engagement, often with the goal of funneling interested users back towards that owned hub for deeper community participation.
Got it. And keeping the experience consistent across all of them is key.
Omni-channel consistency, yeah, vital across both the hub and the spokes. Social becomes an extension of the brand's presence, but it's not really a replacement for building that direct owned relationship.
And what about like traditional channels? Do things like SEO or email still matter in this community-focused world?
Absolutely. There's still vital pieces of the puzzle. SEO, search engine optimization, remains crucial for driving organic traffic. The research said it accounts for something like 45% of clicks.
Wow, still
Huge! And that helps reduce the need for that expensive paid acquisition. Content marketing, blogs, articles, videos is essential for educating people, engaging them, strengthening the brand's authority, and supporting SEO efforts, too.
And email.
Email marketing is still incredibly powerful, especially for personalized communication and segmenting messages to different groups within your audience or community.
What about paid ads? Are they just obsolete now?
Not obsolete, no. Paid advertising is still necessary for achieving fast reach, getting your message out quickly. But The research notes that the costs for paid ads are up significantly, like 47% since just 2023.
Ouch.
Yeah. Which just reinforces, again, that urgent need for more sustainable, organic, community-driven growth strategies to balance things out.
Okay, we understand the why and the where communities are built. Now let's get really tactical. What specific techniques are brands actually using successfully to foster these bonds and keep people engaged in these communities?
Okay, user-generated content, or UGC, is massive. It's just incredibly trusted because it comes from peers, not the brand itself.
Right, people trust other people more than ads.
Exactly. So brands need to be proactive about encouraging it.
Right.
Asking for reviews, remember, the research found community members are 91% more likely to leave one.
Wow.
Running hashtag campaigns on social media, contests, giveaways, and critically featuring that UGC prominently. Showing it off on their social feeds, on their website, it provides powerful social proof.
Like, look at all these real people loving our stuff.
Pretty much. The research also noted, interestingly, that Gen Z is apparently 54% more likely to create visual content for brands.
So leaning into video, short-form video especially.
Yeah, engaging with those creators, leveraging platforms that support that kind of content is key. And there are tools out there now, like Flowbox was mentioned, that help brands manage and curate all that UGC.
Okay, so make it easy and rewarding for customers to share, then amplify what they create.
That's the core idea. Gamification and loyalty programs are also evolving beyond just simple discounts.
How so?
Well, think about tiered programs. As you engage more or spend more, you unlock higher levels with exclusive benefits, maybe early access to new products or special content.
Like airline statuses, but for brands.
Kind of, yeah. Adding gamification elements too, things like badges for completing actions, leaderboards for participation, community challenges, and offering truly personalized rewards. Sephora's Beauty Insider program is a classic example of doing this well.
Right, they're famous for that.
Even subscription models, if they're designed well to offer ongoing value, can build consistent engagement. The point is, loyalty in 2025, according to the research, is really driven by that authentic connection and feeling valued, not just by earning points.
That makes sense. And live events seem like another really potent way to build that authentic human connection we keep talking about.
Oh, absolutely. Whether they're virtual or hybrid, or even a resurgence of purely in-person events now.
What kinds of events?
Things like Ask Me Anything, or AMA, sessions with founders or experts. Workshops, L'Oreal was mentioned as doing this effectively on YouTube, offering tutorials, networking opportunities for members, exclusive discussions just for the community.
Bringing people together.
Exactly. And brands like Gymshark have built massive loyalty, partly through their big in-person events, bringing that online community together physically. These events foster genuine discussion, knowledge sharing, a strong sense of belonging, and they really help humanize the brand behind the screen.
And what about giving members themselves more power, empowering them within the community?
That's crucial for cultivating those true brand advocates we talked about earlier.
How do brands do that?
It can take different forms. Formal ambassador programs like Sephora's hashtag Sephora Squad, where they partner with influential members, giving dedicated members specific leadership roles within the community platform.
Like moderators or group leaders?
Yeah. Or even co-creation initiatives. Lego Ideas is the classic example here.
Ah, yeah, where fans submit designs.
Right. Fans submit designs, and if they get enough votes, Lego actually considers making them into real products. It's brilliant and empowers members, builds incredible loyalty, and leverages the community's creativity for the brand. Remember that stat, 81.5% of community members identify as advocates. Empowering them just fuels that further.
It makes the community itself feel like a valuable product almost, offering members like social capital and influence within that group.
That's a great way to put it. It does. And finally, just bring it back again, that omni-channel integration piece.
Making sure everything works together smoothly.
Ensuring a truly seamless experience across all the different touch points, it isn't just about convenience, it builds immense loyalty.
How?
Consistent branding and messaging everywhere. Shared customer data behind the scenes using a unified tech stack so everyone in the company has that 360-degree view of the customer. And smoothly bridging online and offline BOPIS, easy returns, checking inventory. All of this just meets modern customer expectations and builds loyalty across their entire journey with the brand. Especially mobile optimization, 76% of U.S. adults apparently shop on their smartphones now.
Wow. Okay, so the research really paints this picture of a continuous loop, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Feedback from UGC, from advocates, from events that informs product development and personalization.
Which then makes the community and the offerings even better.
Creating this ongoing competitive advantage.
Precisely. The most successful communities, the research suggests, create intrinsic value for participating, that feeling of belonging, recognition, influence, not just extrinsic rewards like discounts.
The research included some fantastic case studies that really illustrate these techniques in action. You mentioned Lego ideas already.
Yeah, it's such a prime example of co-creation. Fans submit designs, they need 10,000 votes, then Lego reviews them. It fosters incredible creativity and involvement, taps into fan passion for basically risk-free product development.
Because you know there's demand already.
Exactly. And it makes those fans feel truly part of the brand's future. It's genius.
And Sephora's Beauty Insider program. It's almost legendary in the loyalty space, isn't it?
It really is a benchmark. It's got the tiered loyalty, VIB, Rouge, points for rewards, and unique experiences, all enhanced by strong AI-driven personalization.
But it's more than just points, right?
Oh, yeah. They layer in community brilliantly. They have a really active online forum, the hashtag Sephora Squad influencer program we mentioned, and they run campaigns focused on inclusivity that resonate with their audience. It drives huge sales, creates a strong sense of exclusivity and belonging, and cultivates fierce loyalty.
Gymshark used social media and influencers to basically explode onto the fitness scene.
Right. Absolutely. They were really early and smart adopters of influencer marketing, built massive engagement, particularly on Instagram. They actively feature user-generated content with their hashtag #GymsharkSquad hashtag, and they strategically use those big in-person events to bring their highly engaged online community together offline.
And that combination worked incredibly well for them.
Fueled rapid growth and built incredibly deep brand loyalty and advocacy. They have super fans.
And Warby Parker, their home try-on program always struck me as clever, and their mission seems community-oriented too.
Definitely. They tackled a huge barrier for buying eyeglasses online with the home try-on program.
Letting you try frames at home before buying.
Right, which was brilliant not just because it reduced risk for the customer, but also because it organically generated tons of authentic UGC with the hashtag #WarbyHomeTryOn hashtag. People sharing photos of themselves trying on the glasses.
Remarketing.
Pretty much. And their clear social mission, the Buy a Pair, Give a Pair program, really resonated deeply with consumers, building that purpose-driven loyalty beyond just the product.
Did it work from a business perspective?
Hugely. The research mentioned the home try-on program led to a 50% higher likelihood of purchase, and that combo helped them hit their entire first-year sales target in just 3 weeks, apparently. They had a 20,000-person wait list early on.
Wow. These examples really drive home that while there's no single magic formula, tailoring the community approach to your specific brand essence and your audience is absolutely key.
Totally.
And it highlights that community building isn't just some fluffy marketing tactic. It actively helps mitigate real business risks.
That's a critical insight from the research, yeah. Warby Parker mitigated the risk of people not wanting to buy glasses online. Lego mitigated product development risk by testing ideas with fans first. Sephora mitigated customer churn risk by building such strong loyalty.
Right. So in this difficult, high CAC environment, investing in community actually builds resilience against a whole bunch of operational and financial challenges.
Exactly. It's a strategic investment in resilience.
Okay, we have covered a huge amount of ground diving into this research. It's fascinating stuff. Before we wrap things up, let's just revisit some of the key challenges or considerations the research highlights for brands trying to build these communities effectively in 2025. We've touched on a few already, but maybe we can crystallize them.
Yeah, good idea. And let's maybe start by reiterating that rising CAC point, because it really is the foundational driver for all of this.
Losing $29 per new customer.
Right. That figure means brands simply must adopt what the research calls a retention-first directive, prioritizing keeping their existing customers happy and engaged over solely focusing on the endless, expensive chase for new ones.
And community building is the key strategy for that retention.
It's positioned as the key strategic response to that unsustainable acquisition cost challenge.
Okay, and then the challenges around data privacy and building trust, especially in this more regulated world.
Yeah, definitely a big one. It's harder now to rely on third-party data, which makes collecting first-party data, what you gather directly, and especially that zero-party data, what users willingly give you, absolutely crucial.
And the key to getting that data is?
Transparency. Building transparency is paramount. Remember that stat again, 93.4% of consumers are willing to share data if they understand how it's used and they trust the brand. Trust isn't just a nice to have, it's really the currency that enables those personalized, valuable community experiences. Without trust, it all falls apart.
And that tension we discussed between authenticity and automation, that feels like a really significant practical challenge for brands to navigate.
It absolutely is. AI brings undeniable efficiency gains, but as we said, it currently lacks real empathy and nuanced understanding.
So leaning too heavily on bots.
Over-automating community interactions risks making members feel unheard, maybe even alienated, or just like they're interacting with a machine, which ultimately erodes loyalty. Brands need that ethical AI framework we talked about.
Right, the transparency, the human fallback, monitoring for bias.
Exactly. To ensure AI enhances rather than harms the human connection that sits right at the heart of what makes a community work, this is really where that personalization privacy paradox plays out most acutely. You need user trust to get the data for good personalization, but you can instantly lose that trust if your automation feels cold, creepy, or invasive.
It's a tightrope walk.
It really is.
And what about things like global competition and maybe ongoing supply chain headaches?
Yeah.
How does that fit into the community picture?
Well, the research notes that operational issues, while maybe not directly part of community building techniques, can absolutely impact the overall member experience.
Like if shipping takes forever or returns are a nightmare?
Exactly. High return rates, the research mentioned, around 29% in e-commerce generally, and ongoing supply chain pressures, they drain resources and they can lead to negative customer interactions that sour the relationship.
Even if the community itself is great.
Right. So investing in operational efficiency, maybe using AI in supply chain management or finding ways to streamline that returns process helps ensure a smoother overall customer journey. And a positive operational experience, well, it indirectly supports building trust and goodwill within the community. You can't have a great community if the basic buying experience is terrible.
So even operational excellence plays a role in fostering community, just by ensuring customers have a consistently good experience with the fundamentals of the business.
Precisely. It's all part of an interconnected ecosystem. You can't really separate them.
Wow. Okay, this deep dive into the research has been incredibly insightful. To try and sum it all up, community building in 2025 is clearly emerging as a strategic imperative. It's fundamentally shifting e-commerce models beyond just simple transactions towards something based on deep engagement and lasting loyalty.
Yeah, the key takeaways from the research really point towards customer centricity being paramount, driven by that mix of smart personalization and genuine human connection.
Right. And omnichannel experiences need to be seamless.
Seamless integration, yeah. Building authenticity and trust is huge, using things like UGC and being transparent, leveraging innovation smartly, AI, AR/VR, live events, and maybe most fundamentally, making that strategic investment shift, focusing resources towards retaining customers through community rather than just pouring money endlessly into acquiring new ones.
So the future of e-commerce, according to this research anyway, it isn't just about selling products more efficiently online.
No, it's really about building these dynamic, experiential, user-focused ecosystems, places where customers feel genuinely valued, heard, and connected to the brand and to each other.
It sounds like it's about forging a more resilient and ultimately more profitable business model by strategically prioritizing and investing in that community aspect.
That's the core message, I think.
So the research seems pretty unequivocal then. In 2025, for e-commerce brands, building a community isn't merely optional anymore. It's looking like the fundamental key to surviving those soaring costs of finding new customers.
And creating those essential, loyal fans who not only stick around, but become your advocates out in the world.
Yeah. And perhaps the most provocative thought the research leaves us with to mull over is this. What if, in this new landscape, the most valuable product a brand offers isn't actually the item they physically sell,
Okay.
but rather the powerful sense of belonging, connection, and maybe even influence that they cultivate within their community?
Huh. That really does reframe the whole idea of value, doesn't it? What are you actually selling?
Exactly. Food for thought. Well, we really hope this deep dive into the research gave you some truly valuable insights today. If you found it helpful or interesting,
Please share this episode. Send it to someone else you know who's fascinated by how online businesses are evolving or maybe runs one themselves.
yeah, that would be great. And make sure you subscribe to Note Lab Mode so you don't miss our next exploration of fascinating research.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive.
Thanks so much for joining us.